Benjamin Nnamdi Azikiwe once wrote that history will continue to vindicate the just, understanding that time, in all its grandeur and terrible purpose, stops for no man. In its passing, historians continually debate the actions that so many take to justify a cause, for better or worse. Winston Churchill himself stated, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it." Fidel Castro said in his 4-hour-long defense speech in 1953, "I do not fear prison, as I do not fear the fury of the miserable tyrant, who took the lives of 70 of my comrades. Condemn me, it does not matter. History will absolve me." There is a terrible, potent resonance in the words spoken, with such conviction of great, powerful purpose. So can someone explain to me how the hell IGN did, and still does, get away with this horseshit? Time and experience have a unique way of reshaping one's thoughts and opinions, possibly even vindicating them if history is any indication. Clear cut or no. I'm Sam Fernandez, and on today's episode of Gems of Gaming, I'd like us to consider the curious case of Clover Studios' God Hand. At the time of its release, God Hand came out during the height of some of the most wildly creative and visually stunning titles being released under the Capcom banner. In 2003, Beautiful Joe stormed onto the scene with its simple premise, wild execution, and gorgeous and sharply defined graphical presentation, all wrapped around the deceptively simple but astonishingly rewarding gameplay. In 2006, hype was built up around the upcoming Okami, being made by the now regrettably defunct Clover Studio. While essentially The Legend of Zelda set in feudal Japan as a dog, before Twilight Princess ran wild with it, Okami was, and still is to this day, one of the most visually striking games that I've ever seen, with the designers replicating the sumie style of Japanese painting magnificently, giving the world and its inhabitants a life all their own. With all of this hype surrounding their games, which up to this point had been critical successes, what kind of delight and insanity would the upcoming God Hand have? A game which was touted to let you literally kick your opponents into the stratosphere and deliver a barrage of blazing punches hundreds of times in the span of a few seconds. Oh no. Oh, honey, no. Clover, baby, what happened to you? This game is ugly as sin. It just is, there's no easy way to put it. And given the standards of the system this late in the PS2's life cycle, there's really no excuse for this. The controls themselves are extremely awkward too, with a weird mix of tank controls that sorta, but not really mesh with the fluid style of control that over-the-shoulder games, control like. It's a little too loose if you're trying to switch targets, and that can really mess with your perceptions. The game does not make a good first impression, and there are a number of moves and subtleties that the game does not convey well at all. And the sparsely scattered tutorial boxes that you find don't do squat to really help. The really bizarre thing is how basic the game looks, like there was no afterthought given to touching up the models after they were rendered. I know that tech has come a long way since then, but really guys? Like I said, standards. Right about this time when I first started playing the game is when I just gave up. I was mad, okay? I don't know if I was furious, but there definitely was a lingering feeling of resentment and anger. I just stopped, and I took the game and I returned it that same day. That's how upset I was. Fast forward to maybe 2 or 3 years later, and I stumbled onto this funky little meme that was going around, and well, it renewed my interest in the game for the stupidest of reasons. Well, this game has some pretty ugly-ass levels. I wonder what all the fuss is about. Holy shit, this is fucking awesome! Oh my god, I'm the motherfucking Fist of the North Star, Jesus Christ! I'm getting hungry, hombre! Fuck yes, you were the best boss fight ever!
This is dumb.
Yeah, it's stupid, I know, but hey, it actually led me to actively hunting the game down again so I could play it again and give it a more critical look. Aggregate scores of the game were favorable, ranging in the 70 to 80% range. However, and I feel like this is largely what sealed the game's fate, the incredibly damning review by IGN, a miserable 3.0, was a pretty wicked blow to the studio's reputation. And while it may be unfair to call it a major contributing factor to Clover Studios' eventual dissolution, Given IGN's clout at the time, it certainly didn't help. I'm convinced that, much like myself at the time, the reviewers didn't actually play enough of the game to get a full grasp of what it was really all about. Snap judgments are so tragic, really. So, let's get back to why you're really here. Why is God Hand deserving of attention so many years after the fact? Well... this right here is the most accurate summation of what kind of experience you're going to have with this game. It's a thing of beauty, really. Your adversaries are a laundry list of insanity, including, but not limited to, an overweight cigar-smoking Mexican Shaolin monk practicing Hungar, a magical girl vampire dominatrix, a giant enemy crane, poison chihuahuas, Super Sentai dwarves with a playing card motif, a rock band tag team, hard gay carnival strippers, and a demon disguised as a man, disguised as a gorilla, disguised as a luchador. I really wish I had the level of imagination required to make that last one up. It's the kind of madness you would get when you're playing make-believe as a 5-year-old, and it is glorious. The game's plot, if you would even call it that, follows Gene, a down-on-his-luck brawler who's low on cash but surprisingly high in morals. He comes across a girl being accosted by a group of thugs about to lop off her arm. Gene intervenes to kick some ass, and proceeds to get his own arm sheared off. Well, no good deed goes unpunished, does it? Luckily for him, the girl he saved, named Olivia, is carrying on her person the God Hand, the severed arm of a saint who once opposed the king of all evil and suffering, Angra. She gives him the God Hand as a way of repaying him, but also, as a result, ropes him into opposing the very same demons that took his arm. Gene now has a target on his back the size of Arkansas, being the holder of the God Hand, since it is one of the only things that can actually throw a wrench in the demon's plans. This doesn't sit well with Gene, who's now stuck in this literal unholy mess, and Olivia ain't letting him weasel his way out of doing some measure of good with his newfound power.
Let's axe it!
You raise a very compelling argument, lady. There's more to the story if you can believe it. Olivia's former fiancé Azel made off with the left God Hand, and after slaughtering Olivia's clan, proclaimed himself the Devil Hand. Blah 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 betrayal, blah 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 Angra's resurrection, yada yada enslaved humanity. Fuck it, time to punch everything! Now ain't that some shit? The combat system is more nuanced and rewarding than one might assume at first glance. Various attacks aren't mapped to the face buttons, with square enabling an entirely customizable combo. Triangle and X allow for individual strikes with which you can change the flow of your attack pattern. This allows for you to create a fighter that is truly your own, and makes for one of the most enjoyable and truly unique game experiences I've ever had the joy to take part in. Because how you approach combat and how you set up your combos directly influence how you play. There's no wrong way to play if you adapt your style, combos, and commands to suit you, and the combinations and applications thereof are almost limitless. Focus on fast combos to break down targets one at a time? Go for it! Want to focus on crowd control with wide-hitting attacks? By all means do so. If you want to forego continuous strikes for survivability and have attacks that mix things up for a hit-and-run style, then do it! With over 100 different attacks and maneuvers to acquire, all of them will be yours to use as you see fit. Granted, a number of them are simply upgrades to existing moves, but these are still choices you have, since you can't map two of the same move to your actions. You have that freedom. Customizing is a snap too. When viewing different moves at the shop, there's a simple indicator of when the attack actually strikes during its animation, and how much damage the subsequent strike deals. There's even a practice ring which you can make use of to test out various moves and configurations against a dummy to see what works and what doesn't in a typical combat scenario. As an added convenience, your moveset is changed back to its original configuration when you're done. Damn son, that's handy as hell. In addition, you'll notice another meter beneath your life bar. This is your tension, and it increases as you dodge attacks, taunt enemies, and inflict damage. There's also moves that increase your attention, such as the Yes Man Kablam. Once you've filled your tension to a sufficient enough level, hitting R2 has Gene remove the Deistic Bracer on the God Hand, rendering him completely invulnerable for the duration of the release, speeding up his attacks, upping his attack power, and making every attack ignore an enemy's guard completely. A big component of playing God Hand successfully is knowing when to unleash and when to hold off.
Timing and observation are key here.
You also have access to a God Roulette, which are hard-hitting, fast-acting moves that inflict heavy amounts of damage, launch enemies, pull them in close to single them out, or just kick them straight in the dick. Defeating enemies in various arena challenges gives you gold, which buys you new moves, various meter increases, more combo attacks, and more orbs for your roulette, with each special move using up different amounts. It should be said that while time does slow down while you're initiating a God Roulette attack, enemies are still in motion, so you have to be fast with your decision, otherwise you will be knocked out of the execution and punished for it.
Quick thinking and fast judgment are everything.
And yes, if you're feeling particularly lucky or just want to simulate the Vegas experience of becoming a wasted, broken husk of your former self, there is a casino outside of the shop that you can make use of in a foolhardy attempt to make some easy money. Blackjack, poker, the slots, and even... I can't believe how much time I burned on these shenanigans. Humanity wasn't meant to watch chihuahuas for this long, and the names they had, the names just...
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
I left the tracks a broken man. I think I might have a problem, you guys. God Hand is hard, ball-bustingly hard, but the game does something that very few games have managed to do properly ever since, and that's implement a dynamic difficulty system, which adjusts itself to your skill level accordingly. Starting at level 1, the better you fight, the more smoothly you dodge and intercept enemy attacks, the more the difficulty will increase. Going to level 2, level 3, and finally capping out at the appropriately named level 4. As your level increases, enemies start attacking more frequently, hitting harder and blocking more, with the window to inflict a successful guard break getting ever smaller. At level 3 and die, enemies will gang up on you and attack you en masse, so situational awareness becomes crucial. Though at level 1, they at least have the courtesy to not hit you from behind. Going beyond that, if you fall in combat, the next time you restart, you'll have full life, and the difficulty will have dropped 1 rank. Keep falling, and the various breakables in the environment, such as boxes or pots, will usually reveal more items, such as food, God Roulette cards,
attack boosts that make your attacks unblockable for a time, and...
Okay, what's this do? Even if you keep continuing, the game makes minor adjustments to keep the game difficult, but fair. Changing enemy mob compositions, increasing the window of opportunity for guard breaks, and making the level meter rise at a slower pace. God Hand is the very definition of a game that plays fair and by its own rules. Enemy attacks fall into 3 categories for the area that they hit: high, mid, and low, and utilizing the backflip, side evade, and even the sway dodge makes each encounter play out almost like a fast-paced game of rock, paper, scissors. You can see the opponent's thrown move just before it goes down, and you have to depend on keen observation and sharp reflexes to keep up. God Hand pushes you to improve while still maintaining a challenge. Not that it doesn't stop you from eating shit numerous times, because this game is hard. No, you don't get it, man. This game is merciless. I touched on the story, which is something I usually look for in a game, but honestly it's unimportant. I rarely say this, but honestly when you have this shit going on...
Will you treat the bodies with some respect?
I think you can let gameplay take the wheel for once. And no, this isn't a one-time thing.
Time to shuffle up and deal! I've got a killer hand!
I've got a killer hand!
You're gonna get it!
You're gonna get it!
Quit imitating me!
Our noble hero, everyone. After you've staggered an enemy, usually after inflicting a guard break or using the chain yanker move, you'll receive a prompt to initiate an action against your target, which changes depending on the enemy, and is executed by pressing circle and mashing it as fast as you can to inflict some serious hurt. Let me point out that these button mashing events became a major mainstay in future titles made by Platinum Games, which is actually made up of Clover Studio staff after the studio was dissolved. I'm not certain who on staff has the hard-on for this trope, but I'm willing to wager good money it's Shinji Mikami or Hideki Kamiya. One of them must have really loved Fist of the North Star or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
You know, it only occurs to me years after the fact, but the reason that the backgrounds are so basic and ugly is because it allows for more focus on the actual character models. The animation is astonishingly fluid, with a lot of the actions actually being taken from proper karate and martial arts styles. Hell, there's even a full set of drunken boxing moves that you can use. And trust me when I say this, you are going to be in for the fight of your life.
Now it's time. You danced with the devil.
Dakara, ore ga sabaku.
You can wax on, wax off all you like. I'm still kicking your ass.
God Hand is one of the single most refined games I've ever had the good fortune of playing. It demonstrates its strength as an experience, demanding much from the player, but rewarding them just as highly for their investment. This is, without a doubt in my mind, one of the most important games that everybody should make the effort to play. Its design gives way to a remarkably deep and rich combat system that encourages experimentation and even manipulation of rules established by the system itself, giving players agency over the challenges. New players can test themselves, growing in experience and skill as they play, while players going through the game again can really push themselves to maintain level die as long as they can, and the plethora of fighting challenges with its constantly changing conditions and limitations will push all challengers to their limits. The often ridiculous tone of the story made me legitimately laugh out loud at numerous parts, and the characters are all strange and delightful with over-the-top designs that are constantly at odds with their goals in the environment. It's this juxtaposition of insanity that convinces me that God Hand is equal parts parody of the beat-em-up genre and love note to all the things that makes the type of game a sheer delight to play. And the soundtrack? Oh yeah, I'd buy the soundtrack in a heartbeat. The music that's used in the game contains some of the most eclectic tunes that I've ever heard, but they're all extremely masterful and highly appropriate for the given situation at hand. Devil May Sly and Sunset Heroes being two of my favorites. And as a point of order, Elvis is, in fact, the best boss fight ever.
God Hand is a strange case in terms of hunting it down. Now, it's readily available on the PlayStation Network store, so technically it's unlimited and easy to find. A physical copy, though, well, that's the trick, isn't it? Rising and renewed interest in the game has resulted in a rather pronounced case of supply and demand, at least for physical copies of the game. Due to the fact that the game had a limited production run, there aren't a lot of copies in circulation as is. Preliminary searches are going to be frustrating, yielding no results if you're looking for a bargain, largely because collectors and critics alike know exactly what the game is worth, upwards of $80 for a copy. I managed to find this copy pretty cheap off a guy some time ago, and who knows, you might luck out the same way.
That'll do it for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching Gems of Gaming. I've been your host, Sam Fernandez. Our artist and editor is Kyle Hall, and our theme song is by Casey Lalonde, who actually has a Bandcamp with a whole lot of great music. Special thanks goes to my friend Jordan for supplying me with the camera I use for filming. Thanks a bunch, man. I couldn't have gotten this started without you. If you like what you see, give us a like or subscribe to see more games that need more love. Check out our Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter for more updates. And if you have any suggestions for a future episode, let us know in the comments below. You know, while you wonderful people are here, why not check out our first episode on Aladdin for the Super Nintendo? It's just one little click away.